Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gavinsky's Tutorials. And this one is on the basics that will get you started being able to use Logic Pro for iPad. Now there's loads that I could say about this, and maybe towards the end of the video I'll give a few of my opinions on this. But there are a couple of important things I want to say in the introduction. I think the most important thing is for people coming over from desktop, they may not understand that a lot of the third-party plugins or whatever that they've got on desktop will not work on an iPad. Let's take, for example, the Fab Filter apps. So these are available on both platforms, but they're separate purchases. And that goes for the vast majority of desktop ports to iOS. There are a few exceptions, for example, Piano Tech, that is cross-platform. So that's the first thing that I want to mention. The second thing is, don't worry, because we have tons, and I mean seriously, tons and tons of great native iOS apps that you don't have on desktop, and a lot of them are really, really great. Another thing is that they tend to be cheaper, much cheaper a lot of the time than desktop ones. Okay, so just wanted to get that out of the way. Let's get stuck into the tutorial. And if you find this useful, consider subscribing. I do a lot of detailed walkthroughs on iOS related stuff, and I often have apps to give away as well. Okay, so what we're going to cover in this video is things like, for example, really important one, how to navigate the UI. You know, I've seen people complaining about the UI. They think it's like super busy. They don't like it. You know what? They don't understand it. They have not spent enough time playing around with the app. This is an extremely flexible UI. I think it's actually a brilliant UI. So yeah, I think that some people will really learn a lot from this video. And, you know, we'll look at basic things like how to load instruments, how to set up tracks, you know, getting a look at the mixer view and so on and so on, okay? Stuff like that. So first, I'm going to go out of here and we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when you first download Logic, that kind of thing. So I'll click through here first and I'll come back to that other page later. Later you'll understand why I'm doing it like that. So when you first download Logic, from my memory, I mean, it's only a day ago, but basically from what I remember, you know, you get, the first thing that you get is something like a sound library type page where you get the option to download individual packs or just download everything. Now, the initial install is about 630 megabytes, I think. And then if you download all the stuff, which you can with just one press, you can download everything. That'll be about 15 gigabytes. Or you can download individual packs and you can preview all of the individual packs, and you can also delete packs, right? So if space is an issue, don't worry about it. You can, even if you just download that 630 megabytes basic install, you're going to get a lot of value. Now, you get a month free. I think most people know this. If you're watching this video, you've probably been following stuff about Logic. So there's a month free, and then after that, it's subscription. I'm not going to go down the whole, oh my God, you know, is this being a subscription the end of the world or whatever? I think there's been a lot of talk about that. Let's get stuck into the practical details, right? So I'm going back out of this page and I'm going back out here, and we're now basically in the page which looks like something from the Files app, right? That is where all our projects get saved. So you don't actually have to manually save your projects if you've just quit Logic, for example. Like the last time I quit a project, it's just automatically saved here as project 25, right? And, you know, I could rename that, blah, blah, blah. If I swipe left on it, then I can delete it, and so on and so on. By the way, the only reason I'm using a mouse here is so that you can see what I'm doing. If I'm using my finger, you wouldn't be able to see that, right? Okay, so you'll have a screen like this. Now, what you want to do, you've already downloaded some packs, whatever, or not, as the case may be. You don't need to, like I said, basic install is enough. Next thing you want to do, go up here, click on this, and you get this screen. Now, one very useful thing is this Learn and Explore section, where you have a bunch of different tutorials. They're not like video tutorials, but they're basically just sort of little like pop-ups explaining some things and giving you some instructions. You know, press this and then you'll see that XYZ will happen, whatever, right? They're very good, they're very useful. So I recommend watching those. And that's one of the main things that I've been doing so far in this day since the app was released, to try and get some of the basics. I'll do more videos on the future as I get more familiar with the app. Now, for now, we're just going to forget about these things here. And I'm also not going to look at live loops or anything. And we're just going to go into this tracks view. So when we click here, this pop-up opens and offers us various options for creating a new track. So we can create a MIDI track, audio track, pattern, drummer, or we can load patches, loops, and samples. So like, let's say just for a very simple thing, let's just get into loading a loop, let's say. Okay, this is a nice one. So what we do here, so look, this is a loop, right? It's a bit of audio. So what we do, we just take it, drag it, and don't drag it in here, drag it over here. Now we can see that has appeared here, and we have some information about it here. Now we can collapse and expand that, by the way, okay, by dragging. So when we drag left, it collapses. When we drag right, it expands. We got some stuff here like mute, solo, arm it for recording, and so on. Can't actually remember what that is. Now, let's just play it. Okay, so that's one thing we can do. Now, another thing we can do then, right, we can add a new track, okay? So we just press this plus, and this time let's add a MIDI software instrument. Now, when I've changed this a little bit, because when you first download the app, the default will be that it'll be set up, it'll be set up like this. Okay, sculpture will be there. And so if we press that, that will open this up as an instance of sculpture, which is one of the synths. It's a physical modeling synth that comes with Logic. I really like it. Now, if you see down here, when we click on this, this will show us what this instrument 2 is, and we can see that it's sculpture. And I'm not going to look at these things here yet, but we can see over here, okay, we've got MIDI FX. So like, for example, we could add in an arpeggiator. Now these things are MIDI FX that are built into Logic Pro. Here we have various audio units listed by developer, right? Now, we've also got a search bar here, okay? So if you don't, remember who the developer is, just use the search bar. And we'll get into something else about this later, maybe, but I don't want to go down that road now. Okay, so this is how we can load things here. For now, let's just go with the arpeggiator. And then here we can add audio FX if we want, right? And let's see. Okay, here we have, let's just click on this for a second. So if you see here, okay, now this is larger. And what I can do is I can drag it up here. Okay, so we can hide that track view panel. We can drag it up so we're getting all the screen there. Okay, we still have this over here, the browser. Well, we can close that as well. And now that instrument is taking up pretty much the whole window. So it's going to be a lot nicer to work with. We can turn it on and off here. Okay, so this is one important thing when we get started. Now, if you see there, again, just double click, okay, to enlarge that, and then use this to go back. Another thing we can do, whoops. Oh, damn. Okay, right, we can long press here, and then we can, replace, we can show presets, show patches, whatever. So let's just pick something. Now, let's go for this. Let's see. Rain harp. Okay, that sounds nice. Now let's just hear what that sounds like. Okay, so you can see now what the arpeggiator is doing. I turned the arpeggiator off. Now it's not arpeggiating. Okay, so this is how we can build up our MIDI instrument and effects chain. So again, we can use third-party instruments. At the top here, we can see some of the recent ones that we used. Let's put this on, for example. This is a cool plugin. I'm not sure if this is available for Mac as well, but it's basically by an indie iOS dev. That's extremely cool. Okay, now I'll just turn that off. All right, so we're getting a basic idea of some stuff there. Now, here we can press this little edit button, and that will allow us to delete things. Okay, and then we can add something else in. It will also allow us to rearrange things. So let's say I load that and this one, which is a very nice clean delay. Okay, then I can just move them around like this. So see, a lot of people thinking you can't move stuff around. No, you can. This is a deep app. The very minimum you need to do is like watch the in-app tutorials or watch videos like this, and then really get stuck into the manual and at least read selectively in it. Yeah. Oh, so many people these days have just not got the concentration really to learn apps properly. Sorry for the lecture. Okay, like I say, anyway, I mean, I'm still on the learning curve with this. By the way, one thing I want to mention, whether you're new to iOS or not, if you don't know the Audio Bus forum, that is an extremely useful place to go and get information about Logic. You have a lot of like real experienced iOS music makers, very generous with their time. In general, it's a very friendly and helpful place. So yeah, go and sign up there. Great place to just ask questions and learn more about iOS music. Okay, so that's Audio Bus forum. Just Google it and you'll find it. All right, so that's that, right? Now, Windows, okay, couple of things about Windows. Did you see what happened there? Everything just disappeared, everything except the track view. So what did I do there? I double-clicked on that, right? So again, you know, get familiar with these gestures. Open the browser, close it. Here, you know, you get some information. We won't bother going into these things. There's a lot going on with this app, and really don't have time or even the knowledge at this point to go into all aspects of it. Okay, this here opens up the mixer view. Now again, you know, we can have all of those things open, right? We can have as much open or as little as we want. This is why I say I think it's really good UI design. Okay, so we can play around with our levels and also panning. And again, you know, this, look, you can adjust the size, right? So you may want to bring it up high. And here, real power tip, thanks to Elbow from the Audio Bus forum for pointing this out. If you go into portrait mode, and I know this will look a bit weird for you if you're watching on landscape mode, but if you go into portrait mode and you drag that mixer view the whole way up, then you get much, much longer sliders, which obviously is going to give you more ability for fine tweaking. Absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And this is one advantage that Logic has over AUM, the app I mentioned earlier, which I do love, but come on, seriously, we need just a concentrated slider-only view without the apps, please. All right. So let me just close that a second. Now, what else have we got here down along the bottom? So we have here, okay, this, and what's really cool here is when we drag up, we can get more keyboards. Really nice. We can also do things like set the keyboard to a certain scale. And here, okay, look, we can, you know, drag these around, get them exactly the way that we want. And we can just adjust the global octave settings. That's pretty nice though. And if we slide this over, then we have sustain. So here, I think what I'm going to do is just turn off the arpeggiator. Hang on a second. Oh, that edit button is still pressed. Let me get rid of that. Okay, I'm turning off the arpeggiator. Okay, so we have other things here as well. So we click here and we get surface settings. So we can change, how many keys are displayed. So here I've got it on narrow. So the keys are a bit narrower, but we have a wider range, okay? So we got 3 settings, narrow, medium, and wide. We can show the note names or not. That's nice. Now we also have polyphonic pitch bend. So when we go here, see this thing here pops up. So then press on this and now have a listen. So did you hear the way that this one is sliding around, right? So we're getting per note glide. It's basically an MPE thing. Now the only thing is, if you listen to this, you hear that it's doing this kind of weird snap thing. And I've looked at the manual and I cannot see how do I smooth this out. Because in any good MPE controller, you should have control over the amount of snap. So if anybody knows how to do this, please leave a message in the comments and I will add that information to the pinned comment as necessary. Now, another thing we have here, Y mapping. So this is another MPE type feature. So if you hear there's some modulation going on there as we move up the Y-axis. And maybe in some other patches that might be a bit more noticeable. But anyway, it is a very cool feature. Really happy to have that. Now another thing, velocity mode. So here we can either just set velocity to fixed, where it's all the same velocity. Or we can, and so it's all at 90, right? And if we set it up here, now it's all at 127. And, oh, my dog just came into the bedroom. Okay, Casper, be a good boy, please. So we drag down here. You want to jump up in the bed? Yeah, go on. Get up. Hey. Okay, so velocity, well, 1's probably a little bit low, to be honest. Okay, but now it's all at 18. Now, next thing, let's check out the dynamic mode. So here we have velocity range. And let's just see what this default one is like now, 40 to 127. Just for clarity's sake, I'm just going to turn off this Y mapping here, just not to confuse anything. So, a couple of things that I'm finding a bit confusing here. So let's see. So, initially, I thought, like most virtual keyboards, this would be connected to the Y-axis movement, but it's not. From what I read in the manual, it basically says that it's going to, be determined by how hard you hit the keys. So if I really sort of stab at this, I'm playing hard there, and now I'm touching soft, but frankly, I'm not really getting any difference. So I don't know what is going on there, really. Well, that's a bit of difference there. Okay, so we do have it, but I don't know. I don't think it works all that well. Personally, if I wanted more accurate control over velocity, I would rather use something like the third-party plugin Velocity AU Keys or Velocity Keys AU, I forget, which just has like very accurate velocity along the y-axis. But I mean, it's not bad, but it's not brilliant either. Again, if I'm missing something, please tell me. All right, sustain. Let's turn on that y-axis modulation again. Definitely just not getting this snapping feature. Now, if you just have this one on, you can see here, okay, there's no kind of pitch bend. So it's not that there isn't pitch bend, but it doesn't strike me as a particularly good, smooth pitch bend implementation. I compare it, say, to something like GeoShred, another brilliant iOS app for very expressive playing. You have so much control over there in how smooth it will be, how tightly it snaps, and so on. Again, if I'm missing something, let me know. So view options, yeah, do we see the pitch bend and mod wheel? And we also have, we have pitch bend and mod here. And we got our velocity thing here. So we can also adjust that a bit on the fly. So, that's another thing that you could do. Which is a little bit similar to how you can do velocity in GeoShred. Like there are several ways you can do it there. And we are getting, per note velocity on changes there with using that. Okay, now, really important, just see configuration here. Yeah, a bit complicated for this video, I think. Let me see, not repeat. Nah, this is something that we'll have to look at in another video. I've not even any idea what that is about. Like I say, this has only been out for a day. Really important, it's not just the keyboard you've got. You've also got drum pads. You got a guitar fretboard. We got these chord strips, which are pretty cool. Okay, so that's pretty nice. We got these guitar strips. Now let's just change back to keyboard. Okay, so we've now had a good look at the playing surface section. Let's close it down. Now let's just, I think this will be the last thing that I'm going to look at in today's video. Let's see, no, we will not look at this for today. Let's stick with this come back to the other things in the next video. Automation and stuff like that. No, we'll look at that later. Okay, so let's go back to this little piano thing and let's just solo it. Now, see the playhead has gone on there, so let's create an area, stop, rewind, play. And if we think that's, too low, we can always drag the master up or whatever, right? Let's pull this down. Now, we have here this trim button. So one thing we can do, okay, we can just drag these. And you can see that it's snapping to grid. And it was quantized to a quarter there. So we can take the snap to grid off if we want. Oh. Right, so we can set that up whatever way we like. Now, then we can use the back button here to just get back to what we had before. So let me turn on snap to grid again. Okay, there we go. Hey, didn't want to do that. Okay, drag here. Now, if we just pull here, we're just going to get empty space. Silence, right? Let's bring that back. Let's tap here to get these handles again. And again, bring those back. And now let's look at the stretch function. So first I'm going to expand this. And here. So you see now we've basically doubled the time it will take for this to play. It hasn't changed the pitch or anything. Now we can also stretch it back like this. And that's double speed. Okay, now we have a couple of buttons here. So if you see, when we have trim and this one, the combination of those, basically that just moves this around. But if we have this and trim, when we press and move this over, it'll basically duplicate it. Now then, for example, we could do that a couple of times. Okay, and then we could start doing some kind of cool stuff like this, right? And we could take, let's press here and press trim again, whoops. Let's just move this over here a bit. And let's press stretch here. And grab that handle and stretch this one out a bit. Okay, and now let's drag that along. And, you know, you could see how we could come up with some quite cool little stuff there, yeah? And then another thing that we've got is this split thing. Now, I'm just like using a 2-finger movement to zoom there. Okay, so play around with your fingers. Okay, so here I'm like stretching it out. I'm basically just putting my 2 fingers on the screen and like moving the right one out. And then here I'm putting 2 fingers and I'm moving the rightmost finger inwards. Okay, and so here I've got 2 fingers, one above the other, and I'm basically like pulling the top one down. Really nice, really intuitive. Okay, so we've got this little split thing here. It seems worth mentioning at this point. One thing that I think is a pity is that you know, we only see what these are when we actually select them. And like over here, for example, when we select these things, we don't even see what they are. I don't know why there isn't a tooltip thing, something you can press here that will enable tooltips, and then when you're hovering over something, it'll tell you what that does. So it'd be great if that could be added. Anyway, split. So click here. Again, remember it's quantized, and I have to be honest at the moment. I'm trying to see, hang on, how do we... I'm just not really seeing how to change that snap amount, but there must be a way. Don't know, maybe something I'll look at in the next video, or again, if you know, leave it in the comments. I have not checked the manual on this part yet, but certainly there's going to be something about it there. Let's click back to that split. So here, we drag down here, and now that's become split. And so again, for example, we could go to trim. We got this one. Drag over a copy a little bit. Right, and getting these cool little sort of glitchy effects there. Nice. Okay, there's one thing maybe then, let's just look at the drummer. So if you remember, we had that on solo. Right, so we have various drums there. Now we could, oops, it's not right, is it? Wait a second. Show patches. Mute everything. Solo various things. We can click in here. Hang on, let's just get out of that for you a second. How the hell do I get back out here again? Wait a sec. Okay, let's stick with this one for a second. So let me get rid of that browser for a minute. Trying to see why I can't see the other tracks here. Oh, okay, we're on that. Don't know. Okay, anyway. Double click there. We get this popping up. Now here we can play with things like complexity and intensity. And playing around with the frequency of different instruments coming in. And let me just go back a few steps. Hey, I'm still confused about why I'm not seeing those other views. Ah, there we go. Kind of. Why am I not just seeing it all? Need to zoom or something. Ah, here we go. Okay. Bloody hell. So yeah, pretty intuitive interface, but there are definitely some things that can trip you up. So look, yeah, got by now a pretty good overview of the interface. Just again, very quick recap of some of the stuff that we looked at today. The transport, the fact that the BPM can go down as low as 5, brilliant. That we've got nice control over time signatures. Love having a back button. One of the things I'm still a bit unsure about how to change the grid. I'll definitely have that figured out by the next video. Just realized now that I didn't know that. Really important thing, we know now how to work our way around the interface. We know that we have a lot of these different play surfaces. We looked a lot at how customizable the keyboard is. Again, with all these brilliant resizing options. It's just so clever the way some of these things have been implemented, I think. I think other app developers will have a lot to learn from how Logic has done certain things. We had that question earlier of, you know, what was the story? One of those still muted. You know what? How sensitive can you really get with the velocity by playing with pressure on the keys? I found it's not that good for low velocities. Maybe there's a way around. Same thing with the sort of slightly weird snapping to notes when we had glide enabled, i.e. per note pitch bends. I mean, again, somebody hopefully can give me some advice on that. Okay, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video. Next video might be on Logic. There's also a video on piano tech that I want to do. And that piano tech video will have a giveaway opportunity for a stage license of piano tech or any piano tech instrument. That's a pretty high value giveaway. So yeah, don't want to miss that one. And I have to say, I really love piano tech. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Okay, everyone, take it easy. See you in the next video. Happy playing around with Logic. Again, nothing to lose. Got a 1 month free trial to check it out in. Well worth checking out. I mentioned at the beginning, I'd maybe come back to some things about how this affects, or how it will affect the iOS ecosystem overall. Yeah, I do hope that it will be positive. I mean, it'll certainly have some damaging effects. I do think that some of the other DAWs will struggle. A lot of people maybe making things like EQ plugins and so on. Probably a lot of people will just go for the stock plugins in this. I mean, even the built-in synths, you know, there's a lot of people who could just quite happily just make make music with Logic on their iPad and not buy any other apps at all. But in my experience, that's not really the way that these kind of hobbies tend to go. You know, gear is very addictive. I mean, there's been a lot of kind of anti-influencer type thing, which I personally do have a lot of sympathy for. I mean, I recognize that even these kind of informative videos, you know, do increase gas, and I don't really like that aspect of doing this. But yeah, I'm not very worried about Logic stopping people buying third-party plugins, because there's a lot of like just really cool third-party plugins that do things that you couldn't do in Logic, or that maybe have a slight, you know, difference in the workflow or the interface that appeals to you. I think about things like audio thing apps, for example, or you know, the new Brand Boss Hilda that I did a half-hour walkthrough on the other day. I mean, the interfaces are just really, really enjoyable to use. So yeah, I think there's still going to be plenty of room for ports from iOS, third-party plugins. I think we're going to get loads. This may lead to price increases, because until now, until the past few years, there weren't many desktop developers making ports to iOS, and a lot of the iOS apps were priced extremely cheaply. I mean, this, I think, comes from the early days of the App Store, when, you know, a lot of apps were really, really cheap, but people thought they could make money by selling tons of apps. And yeah, if you made a gaming app, even if it was just $2 or $3, if everybody bought it, then yeah, you could get rich. But that's how that's not really how it's gone with iOS music. It's a pretty niche concern. It's very hard for indie developers to make a living on iOS, so prices do have to rise, but also quality has to rise. There are a lot of creative developers in iOS, but frankly, there are a lot of them who are not really giving the best UI or UX experience. Same goes, by the way, for a lot of desktop ports. A lot of desktop ports that use things like Juice, for example, don't have features like drag and drop that, depending on the app, can really make things a bit of a pain in the arse to work with. Also, desktop ports do not, in general, make use of the touch interface well. So I think that I mean, there's several things that could happen. If iOS does become a lot more popular as a platform, it might be worth desktop devs' while to actually make, separate iOS versions of their plugins that do really take, a complete kind of redesign approach like Apple did with Logic here and make it a beautiful touchscreen experience. It's one thing that could happen. I think developers would need to be pretty big for that to be worth their while. They'd want to really feel that a lot of people are going to be buying their apps. But what I also hope is that it could encourage native iOS developers to differentiate themselves from all the people who are porting stuff over from desktop, all these apps that are not designed for touchscreen. I hope that it would encourage these iOS native devs to make much, much better touchscreen implementations. And that's why earlier I brought up, actually it might have not even have been in this video because I've done a few takes on it, but things like Fluss by Brambos and Heinbach that, actually like really take advantage of the touch interface that makes them, not only fun, but also brings in like cool functionality. There are just far too many iOS devs who are not doing anything special whatsoever in terms of the touchscreen, and I'm pretty pissed off with it, to be honest. A lot of iOS devs are just making apps exactly like pieces of hardware. One example would be making knobs where you have to, like, let's say you got a delay plugin and you've got a knob for synchronized delay time, and you're jumping from like eighth to quarter to half and so on, with all the dotteds and triplets and so on between. And to get from, say, a 16th note to a whole note, you've got to drag through a whole bunch of intermediate values that often sound like shit. I mean, unless it's maybe a tape delay or something, or you want that kind of effect. A lot of the time what you'd really want to do is you press on, say, a 16th note value, you move the knob to a whole note value, and then you release when it reaches a whole note, and only then does the delay time change. And then you can get delay times that work musically, right? So things like that would be more expensive, more difficult to implement with hardware. With software, the main problem is people's imagination. People are just thinking far too much in terms of the old paradigm of the way people have been doing things on desktop and the way people have been doing things with hardware. It's getting extremely tedious, to be honest. So I really hope that Logic could actually revitalize things by forcing iOS devs to make a great UI and UX experiences that play to the strengths of the iPad. And same with desktop developers. No more just lazy ports. Let's, take advantage of the touchscreen and make the touchscreen great again, basically. So that would be my rant. And about subscription, the other thing that I've heard a lot of people saying is, oh my God, this is the end of the world, basically. Everything's going to turn subscription now. My answer, I strongly predict, no, it's not. Now, could be wrong about that. I mean, I remember when ebooks first came out, a lot of people were saying, no way, God, it's such a horrible experience reading on a laptop or whatever. I'd far rather have a paper book. But then things like the iPad came out, or the Kindle and whatever, and I mean, people just got used to the convenience of it. And personally, for myself these days, I hardly ever read paper books anymore, but I wouldn't have expected that back then. But about subscriptions, I do think it's quite different. You know, one thing is we're in an economic downturn, a pretty big one, especially for people living in the West. And people just can't afford to have that many subscriptions. I actually just cancelled a bunch of my subscriptions the other day. I was like, I just don't really need these things and I don't like paying for them. So I think people will make exceptions for a few apps here and there, things that they really get value from. For example, I've got a subscription to Mubi. This is not, by the way, any kind of sponsored plug or anything like that. I absolutely love it. And I mean, I feel it's great value. But I've got about 700 and something AUV3s on my iPad by hundreds of different developers. If any of those apps pretty much went subscription, the vast majority I would just let them go. There's no way I'd pay a subscription. Even just like $2 a month subscription for most of the apps that I have, there's no way that I would pay it. Now, some people have talked about maybe like developer-based subscriptions, like Waves basically was kind of trying to do recently. Okay, you pay a subscription and you get access to all the plugins. Again, there might be a few developers that I would tolerate that for. It would have to be an extremely low price, really, though. And I would, again, be extremely fussy about it, and I think there would be a huge backlash among people. So I do think that there may be some more apps going subscription. I could imagine, for example, if Ableton or Bitwig came over to iOS, they could get away with subscriptions, yeah, sure. If Serum ported over, could it be subscription? Maybe. Could it be at the same price as Logic? Don't think so. Would people bother using Serum when we have really good synths that are similar to Serum, but like designed for a touchscreen, like ButterSynth, for example, which just came out recently, that is a one-off purchase? No, I don't think so. I think most people would far rather go for the one-off purchase with ButterSynth. So, yeah, like, I don't know, call me naive or whatever, but I feel that there could be a lot of benefits from Logic coming to the iPad. I see more upside than downside. Only time will tell. Let's see. Anyway, already said goodbye, I think about more than 10 minutes ago. But, there is a lot to be said about this topic. I mean, I mentioned the Audiobus forum recently, and Jesus Christ, the amount of threads that have been made about Logic Pro, the anti-Logic Pro threads, the pro-Logic Pro threads. It is a big thing, and it's interesting to think about what kind of impact this will have. So I hope you'll bear with me on the fact that this outro went on a hell of a lot longer than outros on my videos usually would. And again, sorry for a couple of little things in the video that I was not clear about. Anything that I find out in the meantime, between now and when this video is published, I will add any little extra addendums, corrections, whatever, in the pinned comment. When you watch my videos, do always look at the pinned comment. There's often a lot of useful stuff there. Links, maybe a little review, sometimes links to other apps that I've used in the video, or links to videos that I did on those apps, and so on, as well as giveaway details if there are giveaways. Okay, if you've made it to the end of the video, brilliant. I guess that means you enjoyed it. So that's great. See you in the next video, everyone. Take it easy.